You are watching WPTV, award-winning college television.
Welcome back to the desk. As the playoffs inch closer, we are taking a look at the current standings and breaking down the latest NHL news. Here with me is Baylee Matthews, Julian Menn, Cole Jarvis, and Chase Haffner. Alex Ovechkin broke the record for most goals scored earlier this week. The record was previously held by Wayne Gretzky for 25 years. Cole, I'll go with you. What does this mean for the NHL?
Well, besides it being a huge milestone for the NHL, it's an even bigger one for the younger generation of NHL fans. The ones that didn't get to watch Wayne Gretzky play, they got to witness Alexander the Great break the infamous 894 goal record.
Chase?
Yeah, I do agree with that. However, I also think that this is a good time to reflect on some of the past greats. Because, I saw Wayne Gretzky at that game live on television, and I think it's good to recognize greats like Gretzky, Gordie Howe, and now, of course, Alex Ovechkin, and know that now we are living in that moment. I think that's interesting.
Julia, what does this mean for the NHL?
I'd say it's a landmark in NHL history, and it kind of marks the beginning of a new NHL era because the goal-scoring breaking redefines what is possible in modern hockey, but it also brings attention and new excitement to the league, and I absolutely agree with Cole here. It kind of bridges the gap between the generations because it reminds long-time fans that history and great achievements have been made, but it also shows the new generation and the young people that there's still more to do. And it's just about consistency and the global growth of the sport.
Bailey, what does this mean for the NHL?
I think that this has the potential to bring in a lot of new fans. Think about how many people used to go to hockey games just to see Wayne Gretzky play. I think that making headlines will bring in a lot of attention and new eyes to the sport to show that this is just as good as other popular sports.
Ovechkin's record-breaking 895th goal continues to be celebrated. Chase, I'll go to you. What records can't be topped in the NHL?
All right, there is one record that I don't think anyone's coming for. That would be Randy Holt's 67 minutes of penalties in one game. Now, you might be saying, how did that happen? Well, there's only 65 minutes that you can play in one game with overtime. So I really doubt that this is going to be topped. I've been watching some games where it seems like some people might be going for that record, but I'm going to make a safe assumption that this one might be safe, at least for a while.
Cole?
It's got to be Wayne Gretzky's points record. If you take Wayne Gretzky's total points, 2,857, and subtract just his goals, he is still in first by points. I think in second is Jaromir Jagr with 1,921. It's an absurd record and one that will never be broken.
Bailey?
It's got to be Martin Brodeur's most shutouts. He has the most shutouts in a non-playoff career with 125, the most shutouts in a playoff career with 24, and total most shutouts with 149 of any goalie. And, Martin Brodeur is the greatest goalie we've ever seen. I don't think anyone is going to be touching him for a long time.
Julia, what records can't be topped in the NHL?
Well, we've just seen that with Ovechkin's milestone that even the craziest things can be broken, but some things just stand forever. And for me, an outstanding example is Joey Malone's 7 goals in one single game. He did that in 1920, which has been over a century and no one has topped it. I don't think that is possible. Especially with the evolution of defensive strategies and goalkeeping, I don't think anyone will ever score 7 goals in one game anymore.
The presidents of both Russia and America have called for NHL and KHL matchups after the success of the four nations face-off. After seeing the negative reaction, Julia, the question is, what do international affairs play in the NHL?
Well, there's been an immense negative public reaction to these NHL, KHL game ideas, and that is because it isn't just about hockey. Whether we want it or not, consciously or unconsciously, international affairs do play a major role in everything. It reflects concerns about the context of ongoing global situations, and that is more important now than it is ever. And that is why fans and stakeholders view these game matchups not as sport, but as symbolic gestures. So I'd say it does have a big significance.
Bailey, going to you here.
I think it's interesting that for other international games like the Olympics, we tend to set aside politics, but we saw immediately in the Four Nations face-off when Canadians booed the American national anthem that wasn't going to be possible for the NHL. And now with people protesting an NHL and KHL matchup, we can understand that it isn't just hockey. You know, the question isn't, should America and Russia play hockey together? It's, do we encourage Russian and American relations when both of their leaders are threats to democracy, which is what we as Americans stand for? And, you know, it's not just hockey that's affected by this either. We saw at the Super Bowl, every single time they showed Trump, people stopped caring about the game just to boo him. So it's not as if the NHL is the only one affected by this, and I think it matters now because of the times we exist in.
Cole, what's on your mind with this question?
Yeah, no, I think historically it's a matchup that plays into every storyline, you know, whether it's the Cold War, whether it's the 1980 Miracle on Ice, or modern day national disputes. It's an issue that the NHL and KHL are going to have to bring up with one another. Either way, I think this is just a rivalry that we've seen throughout history, whether it's sport or country, for a long time. And at the end of the day, if anything could get settled, I'd rather it be settled on the ice than anywhere else.
Chase, finish us off here.
I will just start off with, I'm probably going to go over because I want to make sure that if I'm going to address this question, that I want to address it right and not look like a complete moron. But my thing is that hockey is international. I think that one of the amazing things that I personally love about the NHL is that you have players from dozens of countries all over. And it's just really amazing to me because in such a time where we're on like the brink of a trade war and countries seem to be arguing and just in this political state of the world, it's nice to see a country, it's just nice to see a sport with players from all different countries collaborating. And yes, I completely understand people's disagreements with this, but I do think that we should play. That's just my personal opinion.
With only a few games left until the playoffs, Baylee, I'll go to you here. What is the biggest upset in the standings?
All right. How did the New Jersey Devils push past a wild card spot? That's literally, they have two defensemen out. Jack Hughes, their captain, is out. And last year was the 10th consecutive year that they did not qualify for the playoffs. And now they have a guaranteed spot instead of just a wild card. That's insane. And I mean, they're not going to make it past first round with the Carolina Hurricanes, but like, good for them. Crazy comeback.
Yeah. Julia, I'll go to you here. What's the biggest upset in the standings?
Well, I gotta agree with Baylee. New York Rangers, what is going on? They gave up 2 goals in 2 minutes twice last Saturday. Last season, they finished with 112 points and a top spot in the Metropolitan Division. And this season, they are 5th, only in jeopardize their playoff prospects. They haven't had 3 consecutive wins since November, which is insane.
They lost to the Philadelphia Flyers. What a joke.
Who would like the Philadelphia Flyers?
I can't think of anyone.
This guy right here, the man in the middle. I don't know. Chase, I'll go to you. Chase,
Nah,
I'll
you're
go
a
to
Jets
you.
fan, remember?
Well, that was last year. That was last year. This year, it's the Philadelphia Flyers. Anyway.
No, I got you, man. Listen, while I would appreciate any opportunity to pile on the New York Rangers, I am going to have to mix it up just a little bit, and I'm going to say the Boston Bruins. You know, they got a similar story to the Rangers this year, because last year I remember talking to my friends, and it was like talking about the boogeyman, like, oh, we're going against Boston. I don't know if we're going to survive the night. But now they fell apart. They dealt off a lot of their good players. Their starting goalie was holding out for a contract, and it's a shame. I thought that they were going to come in as a threat, and I don't know, they'll probably come back in next year and completely prove me wrong, and I'm going to look like a moron. But yeah, Boston Bruins definitely fell a little bit apart this year.
Cole, where are you going?
I would have chosen Julia's answer, and I would have chosen Chase's answer. I'm a Rangers fan.
What about me, Cole?
You picked a team that's in the playoffs, so, you know, nothing I can do there.
All right, I get it. Sure.
Upset, ooh, the Devils, whatever.
Upsetting to me.
But I ended up going with the Canucks. They really disappointed me this season. They made the playoffs last year. They have Jake DeBrusk, they got Quinn Hughes, they got Brock Besser, and they just couldn't really get it done. They had to trade JT Miller to the Rangers, and they still failed. Yeah, it's just, you know, I wish I could pick those two teams, but I'll stick with Vancouver.
Yeah.
Devils are going to the playoffs.
Somehow.
Before we sign off today, we would like to take a moment to remember Greg Millen, who passed away this week at the age of 67 after 14 years of goaltending and more than 14 years in broadcasting.
More than 30 years.
30 years, excuse me. The NHL will always remember your mark on hockey. Up next, we have Rico and Bijan with the NBA. right after this on WPTV.